Hello and welcome to Friday Live. I am your host, Strata lawyer, Amanda Farmer. We're going out live to the Your Strata Property Facebook page. We're heading out to LinkedIn. We're heading out to YouTube. I hope you're enjoying some lovely weather today. I hope you've had a productive week in Strata. It's been a busy afternoon for me, ticking a few things off the list, and we've just come barreling in here to our live. I've just realized I've got my coffee cup in the shot here. No, it's not a glass of wine. Not yet. Little bit longer to go until the end of our busy week. I have been working on tribunal appeal proceedings, kind of at both ends of the story, actually. Tribunal appeal and urgent interim orders, right back at the beginning of a strata dispute. So whenever I've got my head in tribunal submissions, takes a lot out of the day, takes a lot of focus. If you're coming in, as I can see many live eyes there, as always, feel free to drop me a hello, a hi in the comments here, as Josephine is doing. Hi, Josephine. Lovely to see you. Not much going on in Strata, not much to talk about, of course. Tell you what, we'll be remembering these times, I imagine, for some time to come. Yes, I am going to give a little mention to our Four Corners expose that is coming up, that I'm sure many of you have scheduled in. Sean M is here saying hi. Sean O, for the team, the Sean teams coming in. Lovely to see you. Jeff, I know that you're a real person because you ask good strata questions, but I don't know why I always get Happy Poets Day. Can please, my team is going to spam those comments because we get it every time. If there's a reason why we get Happy Poets Day, please let me know. Otherwise, hello to you. Hey, Heather, how you doing? Hey, Philip. Awesome. If you are new to our page, and I know we've had lots of new followers joining, liking the page over the last couple of weeks, always let me know that you're new. If it's your first time watching, first time commenting, I love to welcome you in particular. Give us a hello. We're here. I am here. I used to say most Fridays, pretty much every Friday, I managed to squeeze in a pop by here on the Your Strata Property Facebook page, drop in for a live hello, whether it's a longer chat, which is what we're heading into here today, or a quick answer one strata question. I love to be here and catch up with you. So if you're new to the page, if you click that like or follow button, Facebook will let you know when we're going live. I also drop an email into inboxes on a Friday to give you a heads up what we're talking about. If you're not yet on our email list, you can send us a private message here on the page with your email address, or just head over to the homepage of the website, yourstrataproperty.com.au. Scroll down to the bottom and there's a little form you can fill in there and you will be on our list. Bill and Ben is here saying hi, and hi to Team Sean. Good afternoon to you, Petra. I'm getting a hello from Perth. It's coming through on my end via LinkedIn as a LinkedIn user. I haven't got your name. Sometimes this software that we stream from requires you to tick a box to say that you're happy to release your name. So hello, LinkedIn user from Perth. Lovely to have you here with us. I'm sure when I head over to LinkedIn, I'll see who you are. Sean's wondering if he has to do another limerick because it's Poets' Day again. I don't know, Sean. This is the thing. I want to be clear about this. We all need to know what our obligations are here. Hey, Cassie. Lovely to see you. Josephine saying Poets' Day. Oh, okay. I'm not going to say that. Is that what it means? All right. Okay. Sounds very Aussie. Chu, how are you doing? Thank you, Jeff, for the instruction, for the clarification. Josephine beat you to that. All right. Now I get it. Catherine from LinkedIn. Great to see you, Catherine, joining us from LinkedIn. Okay. And I've got the team filling me in on that as well. Very good. This week's podcast, my chat with Rena Van Alst. Already heard from some of you. Usually it's my strata managers who jump in and say, love this one this week, Amanda. Love the chat with Rena, as many strata managers do, get a lot out of hearing from an experienced strata manager who is going through exactly the challenges that you're facing there on the ground. We talked about motions to approve the appointment of a strata manager. Does the contract have to be attached to the meeting agenda? Not the first time I've had that question from a strata manager, and I was able to point to a Supreme Court case that answers that question. Do we need to be attaching contracts to our meeting agendas if we want the owners to be approving said contracts? Answer might surprise you. Rena and I talked about why carpet inside lots seems to be causing so much confusion. We had some help there from Scott Driscoll, who reached out to me, experienced insurance consultant. I should have said this on the podcast, and at risk of embarrassing Scott, when he popped into my inbox with the helpful guidance that I then bring to Rena in this week's podcast, I read his email, very well informed, and wrote back, and I said, Simon, fantastic. Thank you so much for that information. Do you mind if I share it on the podcast? And of course, all credit to you. I'll use your name and thank you. And I got the email back saying, you're welcome, Amanda, to share that on the podcast. And you're welcome to mention my name, but my name is Scott. It is not Simon. So moving too fast, as I often see others do, made the classic mistake of incorrectly addressing my email to Simon instead of Scott. And my husband's name is Scott. And after I did this, I felt so embarrassed, and I was chatting to my husband. I said, I can't believe I just wrote to Scott and I called him Simon. And Scott said, that happens to me all the time. It's a Scott Simon thing. For his whole life, he's been referred to as Simon instead of Scott. So Scott Driscoll, if you are tuning in, once again, my sincere apologies to you. And thank you for taking that in good grace and good humor. All right. No limerick for Sean, and Sean M has not heard that one before. Yep, I hadn't heard that one before either. Sean M, thank you, Jeff Dale, for educating us all. That's not all we talked about on the podcast, Rena and I. How managers who refuse to accept levy payments in cash can protect themselves is another topic that we covered. And I shared some inside info about a small, very small community that is, in my description of the podcast, I said they are successfully turning their back on Strata. What I'm hinting at there is that this is a small community that is actually managing to terminate their Strata plan, to dissolve the Strata, as I am often asked by owners to help them to do. How do we get out of this Strata business? Small community in Sydney that has been, it looks like, it's not over yet, but looks like they're going to be able to do that. Rare situation. So definitely go and check out podcast episode number 422, my chat with Rena this week. If you haven't yet, there's a link here going into the comments for you to go and check it out. Bill and Ben saying the Supreme Court are good at surprises and they make bad decisions sometimes. Yeah, they're referring either to our carpet case there, Bill and Ben, or referring to the case I spoke about on the podcast this week about whether or not contracts need to be attached to agendas if we're going to be proving them, specifically strata manager contracts. The case I talk about in the podcast is specifically a building manager contract. And yes, maybe that wasn't the most helpful decision from our Supreme Court. Next week, there is a Strata conference happening that I want to make sure you're aware of. It is the Owners Corporation Network's annual conference, Strata Matters 2024, all about building sustainable communities. If you're going to the OCN conference, let me know. I know that we share many members, we share many followers, everyone focused on the best interests of our owners in Strata. So if you're heading to the Strata Matters conference for the OCN, let me know. It's happening live in Sydney next Thursday, kicking off at 8:30 a.m. at Ridges World Square. Impressive speaker lineup. I believe Professor Hazel Easthope is going to be speaking. I think there's going to be an appearance from the Strata Commissioner, John Minns. His name is going to come up again today. And I thought I read something a couple of weeks ago that our friend Michael Tees might be speaking as well, speaking about sustainably managing the human capital that we have in Strata. So if you have some time free next Thursday morning, do head over to the OCN's Strata Matters conference, all happening live in person. We've got a link here to register for you. And I think there are. I'm hoping that I haven't sent all of you over there and there's no tickets left, but I think there's some last tickets left there for the OCN's conference. So check it out. Sean M saying can't make it, unfortunately. Sean O asking, would the Supreme Court contract ruling extend to contracts for remedial works? Well, you would think so, Sean. In answering that question for Rena, I was quite quickly, as we often do on the podcast, scrambling to go and find the case and remember what it was called. I haven't gone back and read it in detail, and I do encourage you to, anyone who's interested in this point, Strata managers in particular, go to the show notes for the podcast. You can click through to the case and have a look at the reasoning. But from memory, the court was simply concerned that owners had access to the contract. It was available from the Strata manager's office. It was going to be tabled at the meeting. And if anybody wanted to find out what the contract terms were, then they could. A real misunderstanding there, or overlooking perhaps the fact that owners just are not going to do that. They are hard pressed to read the motions on the agenda, let alone taking the extra steps of going and actually requesting a copy of the contracts. And it just doesn't happen. As I gave the example in the chat, acting for an owner, going to a general meeting, new Strata manager's contract was not attached to the agenda. I was the only one who had asked for it ahead of the meeting, and I was therefore the only one who knew that the Strata management fees would be doubling. Literally doubling. They were like from 15 grand a year and going up to 30 grand a year. And nobody at the meeting knew that except me. And when I pointed it out, that Strata manager did not get appointed. But that is the reason why these contracts need to be going out with those agenda packs. Chris is saying, will be attending the OCN Strata Matters conference. Awesome. Sandra saying, I'm going. Great. Sean saying, your point to Rena that owners would not be able to ask about differences was a good one. Yep. Lawyers are often criticized for calling for reform, calling for changes to the legislation. We need a section in our act that deals with this. But that is what comes to mind when we have these problems that our courts don't seem to be solving. Our legislation is not clear enough what needs to be attached to the agenda of an annual general meeting. We're talking about approving building management contracts, strata management contracts. Seems an easy fix to be clear in our legislation that at least those contracts need to be attached to the agenda. More legislation is not always a good thing, but sometimes I think it's needed. Josephine saying, isn't there a delay between tabling, reading and voting? Yes, you would think so, Josephine, especially if it is something like a remedial works contract, multi-million-dollar contract. Owners should have the time to consider all of that. And we recently changed our legislation, that reminds me, in New South Wales to give 14 clear days notice of an annual general meeting. 7 days notice of a general meeting that is not an annual general meeting, 14 days notice of an annual general meeting. And if you have a look at the second reading speech for that amending legislation, the purpose, the policy there was to allow owners more opportunity to read the very important documents and very important contracts that are attached to agendas of annual general meetings. We often do have the appointment or reappointment of strata managers coming up. We have insurance to confirm. We may have a new building manager's contract. We have levies that may be increasing, and we want to understand how that affects us. There's just this assumption there that all of these documents are going to be attached to the agenda, but there's no express requirement to do that. Another example of left hand not talking to right hand, perhaps. Chu is saying our new strata manager charges everything in Schedule B. So that is additional services, so an hourly rate there to being charged for those additional services. I'm reluctant to say a particular charging method is bad or is wrong. Um, I just think that managers need to be consistent. Either you're providing a fixed fee and everything's included in that fixed fee except some very clearly specified things, or you can, as many lawyers do everything on a reasonable hourly rate. Um, that's fine if that's what you have set out clearly in your contract. Sometimes that can work out to be more fair. Um, it's all about owners being aware and having that information properly, clearly disclosed to owners how they're being charged. I can see your comment there, Bill and Ben. I'm going to leave that one for now and come back. Debbie saying owners misunderstand what strata managers do. Yeah, has definitely been a cause for complaint and consternation in the past, Debbie. Okay. So I've reminded you about the OCN Strata Matters conference. Do check that out if you have the morning free next Thursday in Sydney. And indeed, another one for the diary, Monday night, 8:30 p.m., Four Corners. You've seen the teaser. I know many of you have seen the teaser because you sent it to me. Inboxes went crazy. Was it yesterday? Was it the day before? I can't remember. I've posted the link here on the page if you haven't seen it yet. The Four Corners teaser came out. Emails, SMSs, Facebook posts went wild. What we have been waiting for. Many of us have known, many of you have known that this is coming. A number of you have spoken to media. I know because you've rung me and you've said, Amanda, what should I say? How should I say it? Can you help me? Should I be talking to these journalists? We'll all be watching. We'll be watching and seeing what the ABC and journalist Linton Besser has come up with. We have a link here for you to the teaser and also the ABC release that went out a couple of days ago. While governments are sweeping away planning controls, says the ABC, to boost the number of apartments in our capital cities, the multi-billion-dollar strata industry, supposed to protect homeowners' interests, is cashing in. Linton Besser is exposing the graft and greed of the industry, revealing that most states have turned a blind eye to the problems. Thousands of Australians wrote to the ABC earlier this year with shocking stories of financial abuse. And what we're going to see on Monday night, apparently, with the Strata trap from Four Corners, is the uncovering of the unethical practices that have drained untold sums of money from apartment owners' pockets. If that doesn't get you watching on Monday night, I don't know what will. There's going to be an investigation of key industry players from neighborhood cowboys to multinational corporations. Some tough questions asked about the dearth of government intervention and the lack of meaningful consumer protection. 8:30 p.m. ABC TV, ABC iView, Monday, the 9th of September. Let's see what it holds. I've got Sean saying, I hope I don't make a surprise appearance. There might be a few people in Strata, Sean, saying, I hope I don't make a surprise appearance. And there will be a few people, I'm sure, who are ready and waiting for their appearance. Carolyn saying, this is why we all drive Maseratis. Yeah, all of that. The multi-billion dollars that you're earning there, Carolyn. Look, let's see what the revelations are. There will be a lot more to talk about, I'm sure. Someone who I think many of us do expect to see, because we were given a little hint about it a couple of weeks ago with an ABC article, is our Strata Commissioner, New South Wales Strata Commissioner, John Minns. So we haven't had a chat about this since this article came out. It was revealed, we do have a link for this one. I think many of you would have seen it already. It was revealed once again by the ABC that Strata Commissioner John Minns had failed to publicly disclose that his family trust still holds, or held perhaps, more than 500,000 shares in a major real estate and strata services company. So we haven't heard much more, as far as I'm aware, on that front since that news broke. But it looked like Mr. Minns was interviewed for the Four Corners expose, and we may see more about that on Monday. It is certainly the case that we need strong leadership from government if we're going to get past the challenges that we are facing and restore confidence in our strata sector. And I have to say, the media, the ABC, Linton Besser and his team, I think, has done more for strata in the last 6 months or so than anyone has done in the last few years. If we're talking about revealing bad behavior, taking steps, effective steps to improve behavior, then hats off to the ABC. Hey, Daryl, who's getting lots of hellos there in the chat. Happy Friday to you, Strata friends. Jeff is saying lots of Strata managers and committees may get a new understanding of ethics. We will see. Let the viewer beware, indeed, Sean. Okay, just making sure that I have acknowledged everyone. I see your comment there, Gail. I may come back to that one. Debbie is saying, I hope Four Corners consider the other aspects of strata management. The industry needs a shakeup, but there are two sides. Owners corporations also need to be held more accountable when strata managers can be held accountable for them, as well as, even though they don't listen to our advice and we don't vote on the decisions. Yeah, there's definitely many sides to this story, Debbie, and I hope to bring each of those, all of those, to this space to discuss. So let's see what comes out on Monday. And I would love to hear from any strata managers, yourself included, Debbie, who want to have their say that they may feel doesn't get the time that it needs. Let's create a space to continue and to even have those discussions if you feel that they haven't been given enough time. Josephine saying SCA has been quiet. I think there's a few who have been quiet, waiting to see what happens on Monday. Daryl saying, my concern is that the show will set off lynch mobs who want to go after all strata managers and the good ones will be tarred and feathered. I think the fact that you guys, you're not the only one, Daryl, you guys are concerned about that is good and means that you can be on the front foot. Who's got an email ready to go on Tuesday morning to their clients? I think you kind of know what Monday night's going to be about. So who's got that email ready to send at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., reassuring your clients that that's not you, that these are not practices that you're engaged in, what it is that you're doing that supports them, that's different. That's the kind of thing you can get ready now. Absolutely. Zlata saying strata illegal practices is widespread in some schemes to stop owners accessing docs and voting. I am glad, Zlata, that you have raised that issue of access to documents, because that is indeed what we are going to be moving on to talk about. Before we leave this topic of media, I have a journalist who has tagged me in a call out for anyone who has been landed with a big bill to remove combustible cladding from their residential building anywhere in Australia. There is a journalist who is writing for a big publication who wants to chat to you, quote you in this article about the expense of removing combustible cladding from your residential apartment building. If you're in Victoria, if you're in Queensland, New South Wales, and this is you, or you're a strata manager and you have a building where they've just paid multi-million dollars to deal with cladding, please do reach out to me. You can just give me a hey, yeah, in the comments here, or if you are on Facebook and you want to send a private message to the page, please do. Send me a private message on LinkedIn, jump into my inbox. Most of you know where to find me. Let me know if you want to be part of this story about the huge expense for some apartment owners when it comes to removing combustible cladding. Even if it was a few years ago, I know some of you went through that process of having to pay for that work to be done. This journalist is looking for owners who have faced big levies for the costs of removing cladding. Want to have a chat to you rather urgently. I think it's an article that will be going out soon. There's a few will be, I think, next week. Let me know if that is you. Bill and Ben's got a template here for you guys for that email to go out on Tuesday morning. Dear client, I'm one of the good ones they didn't mention. Kind regards, your strata manager. That's a fantastic idea, says Daryl. You are welcome to that one, Daryl. As not featured on Four Corners, says Sean M. I like that too. Pop that on your websites. Okay. Prompted by Zlata, I have said that we are going to be chatting about documents, about access, about transparency, about books and records. That is now. I want to share with you the results of the survey that I put out there a few weeks ago now. I turned up here on the page, as I do sometimes, with some out-of-the-box questions. You might think, where's she going with this one? Popped into your inboxes as well. I said, share, let me know. What is your single biggest challenge when it comes to strata, books, and records? What is really bugging you? Didn't give you much more information than that. A couple of you came back and said, what do you really mean, Amanda? Can you narrow it down? But hundreds of you replied to my email posted here on the page to let me know your big challenge about strata, books, and records. The results are in, and I have prepared for you a summary of those results. I am going to do it this way. We were testing this earlier with the team. I think it works. I won't be able to see your comments as I share here, but I will come back to you. I will share my other screen and we'll try to do a bit of a slideshow if we can. Where did that go? Here we are. All right, books and records. Your challenges. 5 top challenges that you shared with me. This was the biggest one. 28% of you who responded to my survey told me that accessing records was your biggest challenge. This is a direct quote from somebody who answered my call. Getting access to records is difficult. It feels like they're being hidden from us. Some more comments. Sometimes the records just aren't available when we need them. Gaining that access promptly at a time when I actually need them is frustrating. Issues like privacy come up, and I know that this has been a topic of discussion in other Facebook groups very recently. The privacy excuse. Does the privacy legislation apply to my strata manager, to my owner's corporation, to my body corporate? Privilege, legal professional privilege. Why can't I see certain documents that are relevant to litigation? Why are they being hidden from us? Being able to access records at all or access all the records is a big challenge. Next up, 22% of you who answered my survey spoke about maintaining records. Are our records being kept up to date? Are they being held properly in accordance with the legislation? I'm keeping records on my own. said a respondent, because the strata manager isn't doing it. The records aren't being updated regularly. I have to follow up constantly. I heard that many times over. Next biggest challenge in our survey, 18% of you told me you were frustrated by the accuracy and completeness of records, or rather the lack of accuracy and the incompleteness of records. The accuracy of records is questionable, which makes me worried about our financials. Totally get that. Some of these buildings, we're talking about many hundreds of thousands of dollars, some multi-million dollars in revenue. If there are documents missing, or you can't get access, or you're unaware of what's going on, I completely understand why you might be concerned about your financials. Some of you said I found errors in the records, which is concerning. The records are often incomplete, missing important details. Next biggest challenge in the answers to our survey, 17% of you who were answering my survey spoke about transparency and clarity. I find the information in the records unclear and difficult to understand, you were telling me. There's a lack of transparency in how the records are kept and how the records are shared, and that's frustrating. There needs to be more clarity in the documentation that's provided to owners, more of you said. And the fifth of our top 5 challenges when it comes to books and records, the remaining 15% of you fell into this category: communication and responsiveness. I have to chase the strata manager multiple times before getting any response regarding the records. The communication from the strata manager is almost non-existent, somebody else said. There's a lack of responsiveness when it comes to addressing our concerns about the records. So those were the top 5 biggest challenges that came through in our survey about books and records. I'm going to find the button that stops me sharing that screen and takes me back to you now. Sean M saying record accuracy is so difficult. So I have done a couple of records inspections this week, actually, for owners. These are owners that are contemplating or involved in litigation, wanted me to come in and have a look at their records. And I started taking some screenshots and just keeping my own little file of frustration because just naming documents, I think I looked at a list of documents that were named 26, 27, 28, and 29. That was the name of them. And it takes so long for me to go through and to open each document and to have a look when the file name just reveals nothing about what the document is. So totally feel your frustration. And I understand because I run a legal practice myself where we are also inundated in documents, correspondence, emails. I understand how hard it is to train staff, to have staff comply with the office procedure, to get the correct naming convention, to make sure the same email is not filed 5 times because we don't need it to be. It's tough, but that is what being a professional is all about. It's about getting that right so that when you hand over your client file, when you transfer that file to a new lawyer, when you are getting the file ready for a litigation, it is efficient and it is not costly for the client. And you can actually find what you need to find to provide a good service. Sean's telling me that's his biggest beef is file naming. I'm with you. I'd be interested to know what conventions you're using in your businesses, and someone like Sean, who I know has a good tech background as well. I'm sure you've got some great procedures, Sean, and how you put those in place to try and deal with some of these problems. A few more comments, I think, coming through about records. Chu saying it really depends on strata manager or committee to achieve how records are to be kept. No one is regulating them. Yeah, so that's a big beef. Definitely a big beef that there is no, excuse me, there is no set requirements or guidelines or, um, I say that, but then I think, well, there isn't for legal either, and we work it out. We recognize our professional obligation to have files that are accessible, that are readable, that are searchable. Um, I acknowledge that I think as strata managers, you receive a whole lot more stuff in different ways than we do. You've got work orders, you've got quotes, you've got contracts, you've got emails, you've got levy notices. There's a lot going on. Natalie, hello, how are you doing? Natalie saying, if you take over a scheme, the files often come in file names that are just numbers. The owners' corporations don't want to pay for that to be fixed. I hear you. Josephine is saying knowledge management is a profession. Get a professional. Debbie saying we have standard naming procedures in our office and all staff are required to adhere to it. Got it. Elizabeth saying, I love the way lawyers file their records. I hope that's not sarcastic, Elizabeth. But I keep coming back to that example because it's drilled into us, from a young age, from an early stage, that your paper control is everything. The person who controls the paper wins the case. And that's why we're so anal about filing. And I think strata managers have got to get anal about filing. Daryl saying getting documents from other companies where the files are 2627, but when you open them, you realize the order is 261527. I'm totally with you. I'm going to be dreaming about that tonight, Daryl. Marie is saying, I was told my request for checking records that it had to go to the next committee meeting for approval. I'm going to screenshot that. I'm going to screenshot that comment, Marie. That hurts my heart. Yeah, Sean's jumping in. Not true. Yep. Oh, I'm so glad that we have many educated followers here, viewers jumping in and helping out Marie. That is correct. It's not true, Marie. And perhaps we can incorporate that into our online training that is happening. I promised you when you did me the very good service of answering this survey and letting me know what your challenges are. I told you that I was going to put that all into a free online training to help you solve these challenges. So I've done it. I've got you covered. We've looked at our top 5 challenges. It's all well and good to point out problems, as I think we're going to be doing for a little while to come in Strata, point out problems, but we want some solutions as well. So as promised, I have put together a free online training to help solve these challenges. And now is the time that I'm going to let you know when that is and how to get access. This is the Trust from Transparency webinar. How to get proper access to your Strata records without the constant follow-ups, especially if transparency is a challenge for your community. It is happening live online on Thursday, the 19th of September. We're about 10 or so days away, 13 or so days away. Thursday, the 19th of September, midday Sydney time. We will kick off at midday. We'll run till 1:30 p.m. Get it in the diary. The place to go to register is yourstrataproperty.com.au/webinar. Team's going to pop that into the comments here. I'm sure we can swing around to LinkedIn and YouTube as well and make sure that you've got that link. Join me live to learn what you should be looking for during a records inspection, how to get access to all records, especially when you believe information is being hidden or you are being stonewalled, what can legally be withheld from inspection and what can't, despite what your strata manager might tell you. I will share how cumbersome processes and clunky technology is frustrating owners and managers, I know, and how you can avoid or get around that, even if you are short on time. And I'm going to talk about why owners are losing trust in their strata managers and their committees and the immediate steps that you can take to start restoring that trust, even if you have tried before. This webinar is going to be hosted on Zoom. It's not here on Facebook, so a bit different to what you're used to on a Friday. Zoom webinar, it is a free webinar, but you must be registered to get your unique access link and log in. You can do that over at yourstrataproperty.com.au/webinar. This is a training for strata managers, for strata committees and committee members, for owners. If you're an owner who can't get access to your records when you need to, if you're frustrated by unresponsive committee members or strata managers, and you've got that little feeling, I call it the little feeling in your stomach that important things might be missing or might not be properly up to date or maintained, or might be even intentionally, dare I say it, intentionally being hidden. I hear all the time committee members wanting to sell, others in control of records who are wanting to sell. Let's not put that. Let's not put that into the records. So if things are being intentionally hidden, how do we know what's going on? And how might we be able to locate and access those documents in that situation? If you are a strata committee member and you're concerned about errors in record keeping, if you want to make sure that your building's files are being properly maintained, regularly updated, that they are clear, that they are easily understood and accessible, then this webinar is for you. And if you are a strata manager, as many of you I know here are, and you are feeling challenged by that mountain of documentation that has to be kept for today's modern strata communities, especially emails. Yes, that dirty word, emails. If you're confused about the requirements, the legal requirements for records inspection, if these questions of privacy and legal professional privilege come up for you and slow things down while you're trying to work them out, then definitely tune in. Midday on Thursday, the 19th of September. We will run till 1:30 p.m. Pop it in the diary. I always have goodies for those who turn up to my webinars live. So I really encourage you to be there live. yourstrataproperty.com.au/webinar is the place to go. Okay, heading back into those comments. Elizabeth's telling me, not sarcastic at all. I learned how to do my files from lawyers and I adopt a similar system. There you go. I'm going to be talking a little bit about this on the training, letting you know perhaps how we do things in my office to make sure that we can get our hands on documents when we need to. Josephine saying inverse incentive, pay by the hour to review records. Inverse incentive, you might need to explain that one a little bit more for me, Josephine. So in New South Wales, we do pay by the hour to view records. The statutory fee, the fee under the legislation that owners have to pay to an owners corporation to have access to the records, is an hourly fee. And that's the other frustrating thing. I don't know, maybe Josephine, you're talking about my charge to review records by the hour, but I am often trying to move really quickly for the client, because not only are they paying me, but in some of the software systems now, you've got the countdown timer that's telling you now you're logged in. You've been logged in for 58 minutes. If we go over to the next hour, you're going to get charged another fee. And some systems will only give you that access for an hour, and then you have to apply to get more access. So having to open up every document when you might only be looking for one or two things in particular is really inefficient. Colin's saying easy to solve if there was certified management software such as Property IQ. Easy access to accounts is there. Yeah, Colin, nice to see you, by the way. This is something I hear from managers all the time. And what I've shared with you there is the top challenges for owners. We did pull out specific responses from strata managers and develop their own particular challenges with records. And so much of it was around the software system, was around incompatible software systems, and learning how to use these new systems when you might go into a new role in a new company. If you are very, very familiar with a particular type of software in your old company, and then finding that it's very, very different in your new company. And then, of course, that problem with file handover. As Natalie was pointing out, one system doesn't recognize the files of another, and names them or renames them, or makes it very difficult time consuming and therefore expensive for you to import them. So yeah, I do think that is a problem, those incompatible systems. Debbie's saying, I would ask, what are they trying to hide if they're making it so difficult for you? That is exactly the question, Debbie, that owners are asking. And I think the answer in a lot of cases is nothing. We're not trying to hide anything. We just have a really clunky system that is hard to use. And it looks like you're trying to hide. It looks like there's a lack of transparency. I was talking to a member in our online community today. We had a member call, and I was saying to her, it's not really the obligation of the owners corporation to solve this particular problem. You don't have a legal obligation to do this thing. I won't tell you what it is to protect her identity. But I said, but have a committee meeting, put the motion on the agenda, and allow the owner to have their idea, their proposal, their request ventilated. Even though you know as a committee, this is not within our ambit, we're not going to deal with this, discuss it at your next committee meeting with a motion on the agenda, because it helps owners feel heard. And it shows this, sends this signal of transparency and openness and communication. It's not an immediate no. It's not a closed door. It's not a, we already made a decision about this and we're not doing it. It's giving the owner the opportunity to have their idea ventilated, to have their voice heard. It's the same with documents. If you give access, if you keep documents in an accessible, easy to understand, easy to read way, all of them, by the way, all of them, then it doesn't look like you're trying to hide anything. I just can't see the downside to it. Otherwise, owners are they're going to think those things. They're going to make up these stories about what they think is really going on. Elizabeth saying it's what being a professional is, particularly with Strata, then not the manager's records. They are the owner's records for the Strata manager to manage. Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, because that perhaps is tapping into where we come from as lawyers. It is always and has always been client files. These are our client files. And at any time, my client can say, Amanda, I want my file. And I have to be prepared for that. And I have to be able to extract everything in a way that's understandable and send it over promptly. It is never my file. It is always my client's file. Really good way to think about it. Angela said, my Strata committee attempted to lay down additional requirements in order for me to access records. They asked me to list the records I would be looking at. No, I referred them to where in the Act it says I can view all records. It still took 3 months and many emails. Yeah, not unusual, Angela, that that would happen. Sometimes a Strata manager is trying to be helpful in saying, and this happens to me a lot, Amanda, what are you looking for? What do you want? Can I help you? Can we shorten this? Do you just want a thing? I'll send you the thing. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes I say, yeah, I just want the Strata roll. Send me the Strata roll. Okay, pay you $34.10 and I'll send you the Strata roll. Nothing wrong with that. But that's not a legal requirement. Neither a Strata manager nor a committee secretary has to give you anything. They have to give you access to inspect the records, to go and make your own copies, but they don't actually have to give you on request a specific document from the record. So I've seen that work both ways. And good, Angela, that you know your rights. If you do want to go and inspect everything, then you can insist on that. Nicole Johnston from LinkedIn, how are you? Saying, in the schemes I'm involved in, we have all our documents accessible online for every owner, can access anytime, day or night, just log in. There are platforms available. Yep. No reason that shouldn't be the case. Josephine saying, Angela, and the 3 months of emails became part of the records that you may not be able to see. Yeah, indeed. Debbie saying, that's ridiculous, Angela, unless there's privileged information. Josephine saying, will the webinar be useful for Victoria? Josephine, if you've been on my webinars before, and I think you have, you'll find that, yes, they are always useful for everyone right across the country. As I do here on live, I do focus on New South Wales legislation and New South Wales cases because that's what I'm familiar with. But we're all facing very similar challenges. I definitely hear from members in the community who are not in New South Wales. I see those posts on Facebook and in other Facebook groups. Those who are not in New South Wales, you are all struggling with the same problems when it comes to books and records. So while I might not be drawing your attention to the specific legislation in other states, I will be doing that for New South Wales. And I know that you clever cookies there can extrapolate your solutions from there. Okay. I'm scanning through those comments. Lots going on here today. Sean is saying, will you cover next week the further fallout of the death by Broken Gate case with the manager being fined this week? Not planning to revisit that one, Sean. I don't know if you have yet had a listen to last week. Yes, I think it was last week, my chat with Michael Tees. At the time Michael and I recorded that chat, the Supreme Court had only delivered the conviction for the employer and the owners corporation. After that chat, the conviction of the Strata Management Company had come down, and that fine link to that case is in the notes for that chat. But I did give a brief summary of it in the intro to that podcast. I think what Michael has to deliver in terms of takeaways really doesn't change too much and is all the more powerful and important now that we have that decision about the Strata Management Company as well. But it's a really easy judgment to read, that most recent judgment. So I do encourage all Strata managers to just make sure that you have had a read of that and have a think about your own internal work order procedures. Have that internal training chat, lunch and learn, whatever it is you do with your teams, to make sure that you've looked at that case and drawn out some changes that you might make, some steps you might take in your businesses in the hope, in the attempt to avoid or reduce the risk of a similar tragedy. Okay. There are more comments there, as I sometimes do on a Friday. As I said, this was not my wine. This was not my wine. This was my coffee that was in the shot earlier. It's getting close to that time where I might, after a busy week in Strata, have a glass of wine, may head back here once I'm fortified and have a read of those comments that I haven't quite got to, and let you know if I have some further thoughts. If you haven't yet registered for the webinar, if you have registered for the webinar, let me know. Jump in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a I'm in. I'm registered. I will be seeing you live on Zoom, Amanda, on Thursday, the 19th of September. That's when we're having our Trust from Transparency webinar, all about solving these challenges arising from Strata Books and Records. If you head over to yourstrataproperty.com.au/webinar, you will be able to register for the webinar and then come back here and let me know that you've done it, that you're in, so I can look forward to seeing you. I'm getting a thumbs up from Carolyn. Marie is telling me I'm registered. Daryl's saying I just got my Zoom calendar link. Excellent. Do pop it in the calendars. I know everyone's calendar is nuts these days, so lock away that time. Petra emailed a different email address. Got it. No worries. Excellent. Wonderful. Would love to see so many of you on the webinar live. As I said, good idea to attend live. Bonuses, goodies, go out to those who attend live. And if you do catch the limited time recording, you won't see those bonuses and you won't see those goodies. So park that one in your calendar. That's all for this Friday. Have a fantastic weekend in Strata. Go and do something nice, perhaps out of Strata for a change. I'll be watching with you. I will be there watching with you on Monday night. Let's see what Four Corners has to say. I think most of us have some expectations, have some ideas of what Four Corners might have to say, and let's continue our discussion next week. Bye for now.